An interesting new development in the proxy fight between two wings of the Republican Party. We learned today former Vice President Mike Pence will appear with Georgia Governor Brian Kemp at a rally on Monday. Now, that's the day before the Republican primary election for governor in the state. It pits the candidate of Pence and the Republican establishment against the one endorsed by the former president, former Georgia Senator David Perdue. Joined now by Maggie Haberman, Washington correspondent for the New York Times and a CNN political analyst. Maggie, do you have a sense of how President Trump feels about his former vice president campaigning for one of his top GOP targets, Governor Kemp?
He's not happy about it, Anderson. It's been heading this way for a while. We have heard in recent weeks that Mike Pence's top aide, Mark Short, was with Brian Kemp. We know that, Pence has been looking for ways to separate out from Trump. And also, I think, to highlight really that he does not support Trump's false claims about the 2020 election. Remember, it was those claims that helped lead to hang Mike Pence chance on January 6, 2021 at the Capitol. So I don't think Trump is happy about this. How he chooses to vent that or make it public, if he does at all, remains to be seen. But look, Mike Pence is coming in at a time when it's clear that Brian Kemp is in a pretty good position. It's not as if Pence is going to put him over the top. Pence is making a statement.
We should also point out that President Trump used to be apparently a big fan, or later said he was a big fan of Governor Kemp. I mean, during the early days of COVID, I remember him at press conferences talking about how great the governor was and how he was handling it so well. Was it only that Kemp wasn't touting the big lie that turned him against him?
No, Anderson, actually, he's been unhappy with Kemp for a while, going back to the choice of Kelly Loeffler to take the open Senate seat in Georgia a couple of years ago. That was really the source of the rift between the two of them. Trump credited himself with getting Kemp elected in what was a very close race in 2018 in Georgia. Trump always credits himself for anybody else's win, but in that case, Trump did make trips to the state, and they were at key times. That rift came long before what we saw. I think his praise of Kemp during COVID was really to contrast with other governors.
Interesting. If the former president's candidate, David Perdue, loses, then what does that mean for Trump in the longer term?
I think it's hard to see a long-term end in terms of what this means for Trump right now, Anderson. I think it's very possible that Trump could have a very bad rest of May with these primaries that are upcoming next week and the week after. And it still doesn't necessarily mean anything for him for 2024. But what it does mean is that his king-making abilities are limited. And it does mean, Anderson, that he has sort of unleashed something that he can't really contain anymore within the Republican Party, because all of these primary fields look a lot like pro-Trump Republicans. In the case of this endorsement, Kemp on policy, most Republicans in the state feel as if he's pretty good. There was this one issue, which is the election, and a lot of these voters are not voting on that. Perdue has had a candidacy that has had really no message. They shifted a little bit in the last couple of weeks, but in general, for the most part, in the beginning, his race was all about 2020, and that's just not what primary voters want to vote on.
It's also not just Pence. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo broke with the former president in the Pennsylvania Senate race, endorsing someone else instead of the Trump-endorsed candidate, Mehmet Oz.
That's exactly right. Look, Mike Pompeo is very old friends, as I understand it, with Dave McCormick, the candidate he backed. That goes back a long way. Pompeo was used as a cudgel against Mehmet Oz, trying to raise questions about his Turkish citizenship. That was unsurprising, again, just given that relationship. But you're absolutely right that it put him at odds with former President Trump. And I think the question, Anderson, is do we keep seeing people creeping away from Trump? And does that create an opening where people feel as if they can challenge him for 2024? And I think we will know much more at the end of May.
And just lastly, Axios is reporting that Trump's leaning strongly toward endorsing Pennsylvania State Senator Doug Mastriano for governor, according to three sources familiar with his private deliberations. Is that race, like others, a referendum on the big lie? Because Mastriano is all in on that.
I don't know about a referendum, but it's certainly showing that there is some energy for it in certain places. I think there are other factors at work in that primary, but Trump is looking, I think, less about, his lies about the election in that case as why he would support Mastriano, and more about the fact that Trump is potentially facing a loss with Mehmet Oz. So I think he's looking to balance things out. So these things are all pretty complicated in a number of these primaries.
Maggie Haberman, appreciate it. Thank you.